Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
University officials explain why they decided to hike fees for new students this fall.
The former immigration minister is raising some red flags concerning proposed changes to the Immigration Act.
An immigration activist sounds off on government's draft immigration and nationality bill.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Despite repeated promises by Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis of free tuition for University of the Bahamas students, UB is pressing on with plans for a 15% increase in tuition for new students this fall. University President Dr. Rodney Smith defended the fee hike during a news conference today and asserted UB students are only paying 20% of the true cost to attend the university. Jasmine Brown reports.
The college president explained that not only is the fee hike necessary, officials also believe it's long overdue.
Beginning fall of 2019, all new first-year enrolled students will pay a moderate 15% increase in tuition.
University President Dr. Rodney Smith officially announced the fee hike during a news conference on the university's campus Thursday morning. This announcement came less than 2 weeks after Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis vaguely reiterated his party's promise of free tuition to qualifying students during his national address, which aired on March 25th.
We have to think big and to act boldly to secure our future. Beginning this September, qualifying students will be able to attend the University of the Bahamas tuition-free. We will make more announcements on this at a later date.
And that's just about all the PM had to say on the matter. In the past, Minnis has said free tuition for full-time Bahamian students at UB will begin fall 2019. However, he has yet to elaborate on who will qualify. The fee hike has raised questions about the Minnis administration's promises. Earlier this week, opposition leader Philip Brave Davis called on government to explain why the University of the Bahamas intends to implement a tuition increase for all first-time, first-year enrolled students after the Prime Minister promised free tuition. The Minnis administration has been mum, and the college president did not have the answers either, as he insisted he could not comment on government policies. However, he did say this.
What I would say about that is that the university has been working very, very closely with the government over the past several months with regards to the tuition grant initiative. And these increases were also calculated into all of those figures as well.
But Smith was much more vocal about the hike in fees, as he explained the hike will not impact all currently registered and continuing students, who will continue paying the same tuition and fees as before until they graduate from UB. In addition to the 15% hike in tuition, there will be other fee increases. The application fee will climb from $40 to $50. The late registration fee will jump from $150 to $250, and the ad drop fee will increase to $25.
Today, according to our data, UB students are paying only 20% or 1/3 of the true cost of attendance at UB, compared to the 38% which students are paying on average at other institutions around the world.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Labor Minister Dion Folks and Works Minister Desmond Bannister have now stepped in to intervene in a bitter feud between Water and Sewage Corporation Chairman Adrian Gibson and the union representing water and sewage staff. With more on this, here's Jolene Gray.
Amid accusations of sabotage and a withdrawal of enthusiasm by some members of the water and sewage unions, Labor Minister Dion Folks said tension is running high at the corporation. He says labor officials have now stepped in to intervene, and a meeting between both sides is planned for next week.
We're trying to get the temperature lowered so that we could sit down in a dispassionate way and have a discussion about the issues. The Minister for Works, Mr. Desmond Bannister, is also involved. And I think once we get at the table, we'll be able to get the issues resolved. But as I said, I am optimistic, but cautiously optimistic.
Busu members led by their president Dwayne Woods protested outside Parliament on Wednesday and booed Executive Chairman Adrian Gibson as he exited.
Everybody has agreed to go back to work, so everything should be normal down to the corporation this morning.
Hours earlier, Gibson asserted some union members were behind a disruption of water supply to residents across New Providence. The union has denied this claim. The latest war of words between Woods and Gibson is said to be over the suspension of a water and sewage employee who reportedly left his car in the parking lot over the weekend. Folks says he's leaving that part of the problem up to executive management.
I do not want to get into the details of those issues. As Minister of Labor, my primary objective is to maintain industrial peace, and that is what we're attempting to do.
The Busu president and water and sewage chairman have been at odds since Gibson claimed Woods was being paid by the corporation but not showing up for work. Woods' salary payments have stopped, and he has been ordered to return to work. The Labor Department has since spoken to all parties, and the Labor Minister said he's looking for some sort of movement when all parties sit around the table with mediators next week.
We have a meeting scheduled for Monday at 11 o'clock at the Department of Labor. All of the relevant parties should be at that meeting. We are hopeful, we are cautiously hopeful that we can get all the issues resolved. As you know, the whole issue of the supply of water to the population of the Bahamas, especially here in New Providence, is essential.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Cabinet Office has announced the transfers of 3 permanent secretaries to different government agencies. According to the statement issued this afternoon, the Prime Minister has advised the Governor General to effect the following transfers. Permanent Secretary in the Attorney General's office, Marco Roll, has been transferred to the Ministry of Health to replace Rena Glinton, who begins pre-retirement leave next week. Meanwhile, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labor, Cecilia Strawn, moves to the AG's office and Ministry of Legal Affairs. Lastly, Peter DeVoe Isaacs, who serves as PS in the Ministry of Environment and Housing and Managing Director of Public Parks and Beaches, has been transferred to the Ministry of Labor. In other news, former Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell is raising concerns over proposed new immigration laws. He says the real problem is in the administration of the bills. Giorgio Bain reports.
Former Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell is questioning some of the proposed changes to the new Immigration Act. According to Mitchell, some of the headers need to be looked at separately instead of being lumped together.
I'm not so sure that there's any mischief in here to cure, except it's a very sexy and issue politically for activists to make a lot of mischief out of it. There are a lot of miscreants who have created discord in this country over these citizenship issues. There's no, I think, agenda as far as depriving anybody who has a right.
According to Mitchell, the opposition has a copy of the draft bill, but they're hoping to have a sit-down with the Law Reform Commission to discuss certain aspects of it. In the meantime, he says the size of the bill stood out to him and raises many questions.
Why is the bill as large and voluminous as it is? It puts, in my view, 3 separate and distinct subjects that ought to be treated by separate bills. The bill is actually called the Nationality, Immigration, and Asylum Bill. And I think that the first thing is I would be arguing for separate bills on any of those subjects, so that when they come to the House, they are dealt with as separate issues. And I don't think one ought to be mixed up with the next.
The government's Nationality, Immigration, and Asylum Bill 2018 proposes sweeping changes to the country's immigration laws in an attempt to fix the long-standing problem of statelessness and the rights of Bahamians to pass on their citizenship. Under the proposed new immigration laws, those who were born in the Bahamas after July 9, 1973, to parents who were not Bahamian and failed to apply to be registered as citizens by their 19th birthday would lose the right, but would have 6 months after the law takes place to apply for some form of status or risk being deported.
With regard to citizenship, so far, looking at the bill, I haven't seen anything which strikes me as other than what is in the Constitution, except for the creation of this commission. I'm not sure that a commission can pass constitutional muster, because I believe the responsibility ought to be vested in the government of the Bahamas. And I don't see any reason to disturb the present procedures. The present procedures are fine as far as I'm concerned. The only issue is that administratively they're cumbersome to execute.
As for those persons who missed the deadline, Mitchell says if one were to check provisions in Section 6 of the Nationality Act, they would say they would not have to wait until their 18th birthday to apply for citizenship. He says the minister has the power to grant it.
If you've spent your entire lifetime living in the Bahamas, you have the fallback position under the Nationality Act, since you've been living here for 10 years or 7 years, as the case may be, to apply under those provisions. And administratively, certainly under the PLP government, those were all granted. The problem, as I say, is really the administration of the act.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Georgia Bain.
Meanwhile, human rights activist Luby Georgia says proposed changes to the country's immigration laws are simply more of the same. Jared Higgs has that angle.
While acknowledging that the bill does make provision for persons born in the Bahamas to non-Bahamian parents, Georgia says that much of the issues that are addressed are already a matter of policy, and the bill fails to address the influx of illegal migrants.
It's really nothing new.
Under the proposed law, anyone who fails to apply to be registered as a citizen by their 19th birthday would lose that right and would have 6 months after the law takes effect to apply for some form of status. Failing to do so could result in deportation or a jail sentence of up to 2 years. While insisting that much of what the bill contains already exists as a matter of policy, George has acknowledged that individuals born in the Bahamas to non-Bahamian parents should be much more motivated to sort out their legal status.
Outside of that one factor that says that incentivizes persons to go and apply, if not, then you would now in law be considered an undocumented individual or an illegal person. That is the new thing, and that is going to push people to apply, which I like. I have no problem with that.
Speaking to reporters outside Cabinet on Tuesday, Attorney General Carl Bethel acknowledged that the bill will do little to slow down the influx of undocumented migrants through the country. Georgia suggested that is the primary immigration concern of Bahamians.
I still think that we're kicking the can down the road.
Georgia says many of the bill's provisions, such as a right to appeal a deportation order and the establishment of separate detention centers for minors and their mothers, aren't groundbreaking and are already a matter of policy. He added that enforcement has always been the challenge.
We're saying now that people can be penalized to pay up to $5,000 or 5 years in prison if caught harboring illegal migrants or assisting illegal persons to enter the country illegally. Well, again, we've had some rules that have always been in place that says that people can face jail time or some substantial fines if they're caught harboring illegals. But again, it comes down to enforcement.
The Nationality, Immigration and Asylum Bill 2018 is intended to fix the problem of statelessness and the rights of Bahamians to pass on their citizenship. The new law establishes a right to live in the Bahamas for anyone born in the Bahamas to foreign parents while they are a minor. And while Georgia says individuals born to non-Bahamian parents have greater incentive to apply for citizenship, there are many barriers that still exist.
Lack of leadership, lack of information, education. You know, we're not taught the rules necessarily. Our Constitution isn't taught in our schools. So imagine persons whose parents doesn't read the language, you know.
The bill is currently out for consultation. However, it is unclear how long that period will last. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Still to come, the Senate passes the Investment Funds Bill. Plus, 18 nonprofits benefit from Cable Cares grants. Stay tuned.